Hi, everybody. Welcome to Your Life Projectized. Today is episode number 28. And just like I say about all of my guests, I have an incredibly special guest on the line today. But before I introduce him, let me tell you what today's episode is about and what it's called. Today's episode is called Brand, Land, and Level Up, creating a six-figure career with John Signo. And John Signo, of course, is our guest. So before I do another introduction, John, why don't you say hello to our audience?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me, Pam. Very excited to be a part of your podcast today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so, for folks that don't know, so John is the founder and creator of the Brand and Land series of events. Uh, yeah, and that is what his t-shirt, right? His t-shirt says Brand and Land, representing his organization. And I cannot wait for him to share a little bit more about what Brand and Land is. And I just want to tell you a little bit about how I met John. So, I met John on a cruise about 2 years ago. So it was a project management cruise in which we were learning, we were networking, and John was one of the speakers on that cruise. And I was just so blown away by John that I had to get to know him, and we became fast friends. Fast forward a few years, we have seen each other at several PMI events. We saw each other in LA at LA's 50th anniversary event. We've seen each other at different PMI conferences, and it's always just such a pleasure to be in John's presence and to really learn from him. So that said, John, I have a lot of questions for you, but before I get into that, do you want to say anything additional about yourself that maybe I haven't stated already?
You've stated the key points. Thank you very much again for your platform, basically bringing up the brand and land. You know how to land your next six-figure job and how to level up to it. Excited to answer your questions, which I know a lot of the audiences are going to be listening right now because of the fact that there are a lot of job cuts that are happening, but
Yeah.
you'll find out how to level up, how to outshine that other person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, John, because I think one of the things that I connected with you on was the fact that I think I had just gotten laid off around the time that you and I had met. And you gave me such great pointers for how to, number one, revamp my LinkedIn profile to attract maybe some recruiters or some individuals who maybe wanted to hire me. But you also give me a lot of other great tips, but we'll get into that momentarily. So, first thing I wanted to ask, John. So, right, we'd already talked about you created the Brand and Land program, right? Which has really taken off. Obviously, I hear everyone talking about it when I mention your name and I say, "Oh, do you know John Signo of Brand and Land?" And everyone's like, "Of course, we know John Signo of Brand and Land." So it's really taken off. But can you walk us through, John? What branding yourself really means in today's job market, and really why is it so critical?
Well, it's critical to the point that, if you don't have a brand, no one knows exactly who you are, what you represent, what you're passionate about as well,
Yeah,
right? There are key things to figure out who you are. And I tell folks right away, and I'll tell in the brand and land event, it's all about your strengths finders. The Clifton strengths finders part. But tell me your top five strengths. I'll tell you exactly what you're going to be passionate about because you read the book, there is a small quiz and exam at the end, right? And you'll never fail that exam. It'll ask you questions. Hey, do you want to turn left? Do you want to go straight? Do you want to stop? Do you want to turn right? You answer it the best that you can. And when you're done with that, show me your top five strengths and I'll tell you exactly what you're suited for and what you're going to be passionate about. And that is the beginning of your brand. So if you come to us and say, John, help me with my brand, I'm going to ask you, what is your brand, right?
yeah,
How do
yeah,
we how do we make it shine out there using, social media? And when I say social media, it's going to be LinkedIn, right? But it also filters out and goes through the other social media areas such as Instagram, TikTok, X, right? Formerly Twitter. So make sure that your brand resonates the same format, same everything in all of those different social medias, including and not forgetting about Facebook. So It's out there. And if you're the type of person, by the way, that basically says, no, I don't believe in social media, then if nobody knows that you exist, how do they know your brand? How do they know that you are passionate about doing X or doing Y or etc. Right?
That's so true. And you bring up such a great point, John. I used to so I'm on different social media channels, but now this actually brings me to a really important question that I really want to ask is so of all those different channels, so you mentioned Facebook, you mentioned Instagram, you mentioned Twitter or X, formerly known as Twitter, uh, and LinkedIn, which LinkedIn for me is where I post the most. Is there one that you recommend posting on more than the other? So if, let's say, you're somebody who doesn't really like social media and you're like, you know what, I don't have the capacity for it, I don't have the bandwidth, I can commit to maybe posting on one social media channel. What of all those channels that you or all of those platforms that you mentioned, which one would you recommend the most?
I would highly recommend the one that would generate you the income that you deserve, right?
Okay.
What I mean by that is there's actually content creators that are out there in Instagram. Well, that's the best one because it hits out a lot of areas. But if you're looking for, if you're more, I'm not knocking the other ones. I'm basically saying if you're a professional, if you're out there and you're going for the C-suite level or an executive level or a high management level area, you won't find that in Instagram. You'll find that in LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn is your professional branding tool, your professional social media outlet.
Yeah, okay. I would agree with that. And yeah, I'm not I wouldn't consider myself a an influencer, but from a business standpoint, I definitely for me anyway, LinkedIn has proven invaluable just again, just from a business standpoint. And so John, so what are three must so if you're so talking about the different elements that make a link so again going back to LinkedIn, right? So what makes a LinkedIn profile in 2025, right? So present day, what makes a LinkedIn profile six-figure worthy? Like what would you say?
Key ones are and I know it's all about site, right?
Yeah.
So have a good profile that's out there, right? Have a good profile, have a good background that basically resonates with what you do. Also
Mm-hmm.
have a good SEO headline, which is basically your front area, and that's the one that LinkedIn shares with all of the different browsers that are out there. So if there's a recruiter that's using algorithms that searches, yeah, that uses browsers, right? They want to find that one person that does all of this. And now you're limited to about 160 characters. So how do you get yourself to be noticed in 160 characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as just a quick tagline. What do you do? What do you bring to the table? What's your value proposition in 160 characters? It can be done.
Okay.
Can be done. But by the way, remember, LinkedIn is your tool. So if you're out there, you're basically saying, I'm a project manager for X company. Well, I hope that company is paying you money because you just mentioned that company. You didn't mention you. So you're actually helping brand them.
You're so right. You're, oh my gosh, you're so you know it's funny, John. So when I first started my LinkedIn, I developed the LinkedIn because my company at the time recommended it. And everything really was about my company. It really had nothing to do with me. And even my email was attached to my company. And eventually I went and changed it. But so I think that's such a great tip. Yeah, that's such a great tip. And so, okay for recruiters, and you may not be able to answer this, and this is not a recruitment call. This isn't to talk about that. But what are there specific things, and other I don't know if you know the answer to this. Are there specific things that you think recruiters are maybe looking for when they're looking at your LinkedIn profile?
Oh, yes, definitely. Again, the SEO headline, if they like what they see in the SEO headline, they can go into your experiences for the different companies.
Mm-hmm.
But another key, most important part is the about section. And in the about section, that's where you're gonna wow and dazzle them, right? Give them all your information, your key parts, your strengths, your top five strengths should be inside there as well as your skills and any certifications that you have. So think of that. I'm gonna call that the cover letter.
Okay.
And the rest of LinkedIn is essentially your resume.
All right. And so, okay. So then this brings me to another question. So, what are your thoughts on this? I had a conversation with somebody recently, and she said, your LinkedIn profile really shouldn't just be about you talking to so you in this context, let's say it's me, right? Shouldn't really be about you and what you've done and what you can do. It should be about the person, the audience, right? How are you helping them? What problem are you solving for them? And so what are your thoughts what are your thoughts on that? On because again, you want to brand yourself, but how do you brand yourself while also making sure that that your profile isn't all about you? It's really talking to the value that you are going to be able to deliver for your clients or for all the individuals that you interact with.
Well, so you could have what they call to actions inside your about section, right?
Okay.
Make a proposition, make a statement, show what the value is, and have a call to action basically that says, "Do you agree?" Right? And then put it in as part of your about section area. Just basically say,
Mm-hmm.
"Reach out. Let's go ahead and have a discussion." So that's the part where who said it best, right? Sell me this pen. Okay, so sell them the pen. Show them something, and to the point that basically says, "Let's talk about it." Yeah, Jason Belfort, I think, is the one that sell me this pen stuff, right? So in short, the about section tells you who tells the person, "Hey, this is what I do. This is what I can do for you,"
Mm-hmm.
and then challenge them to, "Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? I feel it's going to be this. Let's have a discussion." And that's where they'll reach out and basically say, "I like what I read in your about section." And I've seen a lot of folks come back and say, "Wow, ever since I changed the SEO headline, my profile, my background, right? And also the about section, okay? People reach out to them and they say, I like what you've changed." And here's another part, okay? In LinkedIn, there's a portion where all your connections, anytime you make a change to it, okay, they essentially will see that. I know here's the hard part. I want you to turn that off as you're making the changes, okay? But what happens is this, when you are done with your LinkedIn, every 2 to 3 weeks, and if you're out in the job market, every 2 to 3 weeks, make a change to your LinkedIn. Well, John, if it's already complete, what change can I do to it? Right? That's
Yeah.
the question. All you have to do is at the very bottom of the LinkedIn About section, put in a date. Modify that date to match today's date, right? For example, April 30th, right?
Mm-hmm.
April 30th, 404/30/25. 2 weeks from now, change it to May 14th. And what happens is this, whenever that part changes in the About section, that's a trigger that something has changed, and all the recruiters are going to look and say something's changed in his LinkedIn. Nothing actually changed, just the date. But what happens is all the recruiters that are associated with you, they're going to try and find out, hey, did he get a new job? Did something change? I like what I see, or they reread your entire page.
Okay, wow. I hadn't thought about that. Ooh,
Right?
crafty.
It's not crap. It's built inside there. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like, there's companies who say going out of business, going for business.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, wow, what just changed? Oh, it's just the words a little bit, but now people actually, going out for business.
Or yeah,
Oh, that store is going out for business. No, it didn't say going out of business. They come in.
absolutely. Even when I've seen when some companies have new management, right? They'll say grand opening. They're
Oh
not
yeah.
really, it's not a necessarily, it depends on who you ask, right? It depends on your perspective. It's not really a grand opening. It's the organization facility has always been there. All it is that it's opening now under new management. So yeah, so I guess it depends on the way you look, but I like that a lot. That is such a great tip. Okay, so something else that you taught me about, and I absolutely loved it. So you also incorporate ChatGPT into the job search process, and I like that a lot. I don't actually. You are the reason I even learned about AI initially. So ChatGPT, etc. So how can somebody use ChatGPT or other any AI tool, so Microsoft Copilot, and there's several others, right? How can someone use that to prep for interviews and really or maybe to even elevate their personal branding?
Um, through proper prompt engineering. That's the bottom line for that one, right? But you know, how you craft that prompt. First of all, you've got to we actually have a Brandon Land Chat GPT full throttle and light speed levels for teaching that we do for Brandon Land, right? And it's a 5 hour event. We take you on what we call the evolution, okay? What it is and how to essentially utilize it properly to find
Hmm.
your next job or opportunity, right? Um, so what you do is it's all about the prompts. You have to feed it so much data, so much information about you, what you're, and then after that, what you're looking for. Now, here's the thing though, okay? As you're out there and you're having ChatGPT recreate your resume or certain parts of it, be very mindful. I still want you to take the human part of you and to verify it and to reread it and also rewrite it using your tone. But John, is there a way that we can have it so that ChatGPT writes in our tone? The answer is yes, and it's through effective prompt engineering. And here's a quick shout out to the PMI global area. They do have AI prompt engineering for project professionals. It's actually a free download if you're part of the PMI group. You can go out there and grab that quick document. Also, there's now three micro credentials from PMI as well as the certification for Cognilytica, which is one of the AI companies that was bought by PMI. So I highly recommend you go through that area. There's a lot of other learning tools as well, a lot of prompt engineerings for Copilot as well as Claude, etc. Okay, so prompt engineering, that's the bottom line. That's the answer. But as all recruiters will tell you, don't do that. They're actually seeing information that's generated, that's AI generated. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you probably want that secret sauce in terms of, John, how do I turn it so that it doesn't sound AI, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because obviously you want to, excuse me, you want to be authentic.
Mhm.
Um, and actually, so when you were just talking about that, I was thinking about how Microsoft Copilot eventually it learns your language, it learns the way you talk, right? Because I've noticed. So when and sorry, and I'll let you get back to your point, but something that I've noticed is the output coming from ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, it doesn't talk the way that I would talk. The way I talk, and everyone who speaks with me knows this, I use a lot of emojis, emoticons, whatever they're called now. I use a lot of smiley faces, a lot of very flowery language, and it's not that I'm pretending that's legitimately the way that I talk. Lots of thank yous and like I'm just a happy person, and my writing I think sometimes reflects that. But when I get the output from ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or any of the other tools, I notice that it doesn't sound like me to the point you were just making. So how do I make it sound like me?
All right. So, Pam, there's a document that you wrote within the last 6 months to a year. Find me that document. Find me that one 10, 20, 30 page document, that journal that you wrote, okay? And the way you wrote it. And you
Hmm.
essentially take that piece of data and you let, your generative AI ingest it. Oh, by the way, quick cybersecurity information. Make sure that you do not use the free version of any type of generative AI. Um, I'm totally against DeepSeek because it sends information to China and they're dissecting it all over the place. Yes, I'm sorry, but the bottom line is that has been proven by a lot of cybersecurity folks. We could have another podcast on but the bottom line is this, right? Go for the paid services. Make sure that it is contained in terms of information that you have, and don't give all of your information. Not, in fact, as minimal as possible. The whole point is you let it ingest your writing style, and you tell it this is, Dave's or this is Susan's writing style. It's actually you, right? And then based on using Susan's writing style, I want you to craft a cover letter consisting of no more than etc. number of words, right? Focusing on the key skills and strengths that I bring to the table, which match the skills that are noted in its job description.
Awesome. Awesome. Just another great tip. All right. So Now, so you okay. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of like because every time I talk to you, my head's always spinning. I have so many different questions. I'm like, ask him this, ask him that, ask him this.
Not to boast, but you remember the when we met on board the ship? I
Yep.
I did the Chat GPT. That was over 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Now everybody's buzzing about ChatGPT AI. I'm like, well, yeah, that was brought on board the ship, and now, AI has evolved so much that, there's a portion where you can create a video about you, right? And when you create that video, John, where could we use that to help us brand? There's also that one section in LinkedIn where you can tell it visit this website, and that website is actually your YouTube channel, right? I know that
Hmm.
you put it inside there, and that's the tell me about yourself. You go ahead and put that video there, put that link in your LinkedIn. When folks want to see and talk to you, or not talk to you, but when they want to see who you are, how articulate you are, etc., let that video speak. So you go ahead and this answers the question of tell me about yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's so you're taking me back to that time when we met on the ship, right? And something that I remember, and this is how I knew that I was like, I have to talk to this man. Not gonna lie, John, I was there for Lee because I heard that Lee Lambert, right, the one of the only surviving founders of the PMP, was going to be on the ship, and I said to myself, it was a little out of budget for me to even to fly to Mexico because I had already taken a vacation. But I said I have to be there. You were just the cherry on top. You were a bonus. And so when you were speaking, and I will never forget this, you were speaking and you were telling us how to spruce our LinkedIn profile and how to use ChatGPT. And it just you were sharing so much and for great information that I just never heard talked about, or at least not on that scale. And I remember the tips that you gave me, not just me, but everyone in the room, we were all, I mean, honestly, at the edge of our seats, learning from you. And honestly, it has just made such a difference in the way that I collaborate, the way that I market myself. And so I just wanted to just do a quick shout out and to say that because I don't think, well, at least I hope that everyone recognizes the value that you really do bring to anyone that you speak to about how to market themselves and how to attract recruiters and jobs, et cetera. So.
Thank you. And by the way, for those that I know that there's hundreds, thousands of folks that listen to your podcast, so I just she's being humble here, folks. She's going to be a speaker on the next seminar at Sea Cruise. I believe it is in September.
Yep, September.
I mean, 2025. So everybody, please join Pam on that cruise, along with, I'd like to say there's about 7 or 8 other speakers going to be coming on as well, right? So it's
Yep.
going to be a great event. Definitely one of those not to miss. So AJ, there's your shout out right there. AJ Collier, go ahead and reach out to him. He's the one of the key person, as well as Denise Rancor, right?
Yep, yep. Yeah, definitely reach out to them and I'll put their information on LinkedIn as well. And Lee Lambert is going to be on the ship again speaking, which I mean for me it is such a nostalgic moment to think that two plus years ago I went on that ship specifically to meet Lee and heard him as a speaker and now I get to join him as a speaker. So very nostalgic. Okay, so enough about me and enough about that. So I want to get back to some of the value that you bring. So John, you know, right, that there's lots of algorithms, right, on social media, et cetera. Uh, and sometimes those algorithms filter out, in my opinion, quality candidates, right? So now you're not getting FaceTime necessarily with a person, right? Because before you even get a chance to uh, introduce yourself, the algorithm is basically based on some keywords that maybe you have in your resume or your profile. It's automatically discounting you and who you are and the value that you bring. So how does an individual stay relevant in today's day and age when they're looking for an opportunity while fighting that those algorithms that are basically saying, sorry. you're not the kind of candidate that this company is looking for.
Every one of you that's out there, including you and myself, we have always have to be continuous learners, right?
Yeah.
There are
Hmm.
always a lot of great avenues that are out there. For example, udemy.com, Coursera, right, etc. Um, Learn. If you're in the job market, you've got time. Now's the time, right? If you're not in the job market, perfect time. Make sure that you're relevant with today's technology, today's learning processes. And if you're basically telling me, John, I'm good, I've got a master's degree. That's awesome. When did you get it? Right? 10 years ago. Wow. They're going to ask you, is your mind closed or have you been continuously learning? Okay. Now, what happens is this: when you get through the applicant tracking system, that's when I'm going to equate this to farmers. We're all farmers, right? And we have a whole myriad of crops that are out there. So if we bring, let's say apples, bananas, and oranges,
Hmm.
but the job description, and these are skills, right? But the job description is also asking for peaches. Well, I've got apples, bananas, and oranges. Well, you do make peaches and they're over there, but you're forgetting that it's asking for that, but you keep bringing up apples, bananas, and oranges. So that's why you're getting knocked out. You're forgetting the fact that you are looking at this piece as well. That's what we do at Brandon Land. We show you how to get through the applicant tracking system to go ahead and get the recruiter to go ahead and give you a call for an interview.
Terrific. Okay, so then would you recommend, John, would you recommend customizing your resume based on the job that you're applying for?
Every job that you're going to be going for, you go ahead and customize for that. Now, there are folks that are out there saying, I just want to use that one resume. Yeah, that's good. That's a good generic resume to essentially have and post it out there in the different job boards. But once it gets you gets you a near match,
Hmm.
don't take that resume and use it, modify it so that you get through to the applicant tracking system. And we at Brandon Land basically say get a 75% or higher match. Have I had that one person or a couple, not one, there's several of them that have reached to me and basically said, this is the best I've got, John, and I'm at 63% match.
Mm,
So, and you're wondering why you've got the what we call the rejection letter of, hey, thanks for trying. Well, was 63% when back in college, was 63% passing or failing?
failing.
Okay. And now you want to know why? You didn't apply yourself. You did not take that extra energy, that extra effort, right? Well, John, it asked for, peaches, but I wanted to give it apples, peaches, apples, bananas, and oranges. Wow, but you had this skill. Well, I didn't want to put it. I was so tired. Okay. Level of commitment is also key.
So a little bit of extra effort in customizing your resume for the role that you are applying for goes a long way, is what I'm hearing.
It does, because in the end, it's the what level of commitment did you use? If 63% and you expected a great result, again, what's 63% back in college in a exam score? It's called failing.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
but the other person passed. Come on in. We got you for an interview.
You're so right. And and John, I'm guilty of this. I'll be the first to admit it. Uh I have used my regular resume that I use for all positions, and that is the resume that I've sent out in the past, whether I'm applying for a full-time W-2 position or whether I'm applying just for a contract or bidding on a contract. I've done that, but that is a great tip. And I've done that in the past, but I definitely got a little lazy. But I think that's a great tip, and I should definitely start doing that again. I think that is so important. And so, John, you worked at giants like IBM. So, and I realize we're getting towards the end of our time, but definitely, I have just a few more things that, again, my mind is going. So, you worked at giants like IBM, right? And who doesn't know IBM, right? And now you lead cybersecurity at Bank of America.
Yeah, data
So,
management technology and cybersecurity. So yes.
well, excuse me. I'm joking. I'm joking. But so, what mindset shift, John, did you need to have, or what habit really helped you in landing these roles? Because these are not small roles, right? I mean, these are pretty big roles, and I would assume they're not easy to get. So, what mindset shift or habit helped you land those roles? And what advice would you give somebody, or what would you tell somebody who's trying to make a similar leap?
Sure. Before we continue, because we brought up Bank of America, right? I just want to let you know, yes, my name is John Signo. I work for the Data Management Technology Enterprise Architecture Division of Bank of America. What I say here is of my own and not of Bank of America or its affiliates. So there you go.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
so, I actually worked at BNSF Railroad Transportation Logistics, right?
Hmm.
Essentially, what that was through IBM as well. Okay. Now that was transportation logistics. How do you pivot into financial services, right?
Yeah.
Key is transferable skills. Okay. And also learning. What did you have? So, did you do cybersecurity at IBM? Definitely, I did that, right? And I brought that portion out. And so, and let's say that you have 50-50. I was systems engineering, project management, and I also did cybersecurity because I wanted to make sure that the systems that we built were secure.
Hmm.
Now, going into the financial services, well, what transferable? Oh, wait, the cybersecurity piece. There's a transferable skills. Okay, but that's something that you need to put in your resume, and also quantify those things as you put them in your resume, right? It's not just about this is what I did. No, it's about reducing the risk situation by 25%, 80%, etc. So it's key that you put that inside there. Use quantify things.
Or these were the three deliverables for my project, and this was the definition of success. And I helped all three of those. We matched those 100%. We delivered on those deliverables.
Exactly.
Obviously, right?
And another thing that, like if it's a global organization that you're moving into, right? You look at your current company or your past experience. Did you do something global? IBM is very global. IBM Global Services is the division was the division I was in. So
Hmm.
therefore the globalness was there. So, in your cover letter, specify, LATAM, APAC, EMEA, and AMERS. Okay, now you're speaking their language. Oh, so you are global. You understand what it takes to be in a global team. Those are part of your transferable skills.
Sure, absolutely. And those are probably the things that really are going to make you stand out, right?
Hmm?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, the by getting the additional learning items, certifications are key and important. By the way, PMP is one of the best ones, the biggest ones out there. So big shout out to Lee Lambert, right, for creating or for being one of the founders of creating the PMP. It is very important that you should have that one because if you look at it, there was I think it was Gartner who came out with the release. Basically, if you look at all of the different C-suites and upper management, a
Hmm.
majority of them have PMP.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. A lot of the organizations yeah, to your point, yeah, a lot of the organizations that I worked with, a lot of leaders that I know, they do have their PMP because they also see the value in it. I mean, the PMP, honestly, it's uh in a way, it's the equivalent of an MBA. Right? I mean, it really does prepare you, set you up for success in business. And I mean, unless you know how to effectively manage a project or a program, I mean, I mean, you're doing business, right? When you are managing a project or a program or a portfolio, you are in business administration. So,
Yeah, so when for somebody to basically come in and say, "Hey, yes, I've been a I might anger a few folks out there that basically say, John, I don't need the PMP. I've been doing project management for well over 10, 15 years. Sometimes I may ask, have you been doing it wrong? Because do you have some sort of like a governing body and a framework that you use, like the PMBOK, right?
yeah.
Okay. Now, for those that the agile is built into the PMBOK these days, by the way. And Lee said it best, these days the PMBOK is 70% agile. So
Yep.
there you
Yep.
go. So it has moved, it has morphed, it is bigger, better, stronger. A quick shout out to Pierre Lemon as well as Brantley out there. They've done great in terms of making sure that the PMP stays relevant.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I would like to second that. I mean, I think honestly, Pierre, Brantley, just the entire team, what they have done with the PMP, just with the PMI organization as a whole, it's absolutely incredible. They're constantly spinning out new things just to ensure that we remain relevant and up to date with lots of different information processes, etc. Okay. Last question, and I promise then I will let you go because I realize, we're a 2 hour time difference. So, John, I ask all of my guests this.
Hmm?
So think back to when you were a little boy, right? I don't know how far back you can remember the earliest memory you have, right? I'm sure it wasn't project management that you were thinking about. Maybe you were. But what did little John want to be when he grew up?
I actually loved reverse re-engineering electronics. Right. So I wanted to be like a systems engineer, and that's what I did. I basically, but both at a hardware level and software level, right?
Yeah.
And that's what made me tick and move, and that's what continues um, to fuel the fire that's inside me, right? Meaning learn something. When you look at the new technology, how does this one work? How did you take it apart? My dad actually bought me one of those like uh, shortwave radios, right?
Uh-huh.
It was a shortwave radio. Unfortunately, wasn't getting the reception that I was looking for. My dad said you can communicate with the Philippines, all halfway around the world, etc. I said, but it's not getting this station that's supposedly available out there. I did a Google search on it. Well, bottom line is I took it apart. He was upset. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's like, I just bought that for you. You've got it in a million pieces now. Well, that's because, Dad, I was going to solder this piece inside here. It was using this type of antenna. And then next thing you know, I put it all back together. And now I'm getting the radio station that I wanted in the Philippines.
I love
Like,
that.
how did you do that? Right. And that's the part where if you can take that, put it into your resume, right,
Hmm.
and show that you could do reverse engineering and make it better, that's what they want. Hey, we've been building this pen. How can we make it more effective? Well, let's see. For this pen, what they did is, oh, they put in a portion over here where you can use it with your smart devices. They also, and it goes on. There's a flashlight to it. There's all, it's no longer just a pen. It's an all-in-one tool. Think, for example, our phones these days, right? Remember back in the day, you had an MP3, you had a video recorder, you had a camera, you had everything. These days, now you just, oh, there's my IC. Anyways, everything's in one, and that's the person that they want. They want the innovator. They want the one that thinks, right? But you're also part of a team, and you need to be able to speak English, meaning, when that C-suite person says, why do you want $10 million? You can't give it in 10,000 words. You have to have two bullet points. That's where the project manager or the program manager can take all 10,000, yet be technically inclined enough to be able to understand what we're building, and we're going to give it to two bullet points. And that C-suite's going to say, oh, is that all you need is 10 million? Are you sure you don't need 15? Because this is going to be a hit.
Absolutely, absolutely. I absolutely love that. Wow. Wow. You always blow me away and you get me to think because as you were talking I'm like wow you're right you were a very innovative I'm not gonna lie I wasn't that kid uh I was more so I was the creative one I was the writer I was the one who liked writing novels and just dreaming but so I envy honestly I envy and I look up to people like you who are really just quick on their feet and really can think of solutions. Not to say I can't, but mine I come up with them in different ways. So I appreciate that so much, and I'm sure your father is so incredibly proud of you and the individual, the kid that you were and the adult that you've become.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so
One more. I'm going to try and make it under 60 seconds, okay?
okay.
Folks, whenever you do an interview that's out there, okay, what I want you to do when you do that interview, do not use any of those fake backgrounds that you have when you do that, when you do that online interview. Make sure, and this is why I wanted to use this background today, right? As you can see in my area right over here, it automatically resonates. People are already looking at this. What are all of these things right over here, right? Those are certifications, shows the education that I've had. What is this one right over here? That's essentially a just a marker that basically says I was a runner and I ran in an event, so I stay healthy. And now sometimes people might say, I've had it a couple times where they say, John, what are those three? They look different. That's the innovator part. And for those that know what those are patents. So right away, when you have this kind of live board, right? Whoever is interviewing you, you've already answered the question in terms of, is this person, continuous learner? Oh, yeah, he's, certifications, degrees. Do they take care of themselves? Because in the end, it's about, staying healthy. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So use your background well, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. See, my background. Firstly, I always have my background showing just because I love this wall behind me, and so yeah, it shows my PMP
There it is, right there. That's
certification.
PMP. There you go. Yeah.
Yep, PMP
Well
certification. It
done.
shows one of the very first events I spoke at. That was actually back in 2010. And then some of the traveling that I do because I consider myself worldly. So I love that you said that. And to me, I also feel that it adds a level of authenticity and it makes you human, right? So
Right.
I love that tip. Well, John. Thank you. Firstly, thank you so much for your friendship. I'm so honored, humbled, grateful to have met you when I did on the seminar at Sea Cruise. Um, and also, thank you so much for being on this episode. I think you always deliver value to anyone that has the pleasure of hearing you speak and learning from you. And I think our audience members who will listen to this podcast or video cast, I don't even know what it's called anymore, but I think that they are going to get a lot of value as well. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. And one final comment. Ready? If you guys have any questions with regards to branding yourself, go ahead and I know that you're going to post this one also on LinkedIn. Go ahead
Mhm.
and click on like, click on love, click on support, right? And ask your questions, tag myself and tag Pam. Be more than happy to answer your question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And the only thing I will say is, guys, so you guys have probably heard John calling me Pam, and that is because when John and I met, I went by the name Pam, which used to be my nickname. I have since reverted to my full name, which is Parmjit, but you can call me either.
There you go. Right
All
as a heads
right. Yes.
up.
Thank you, John. Such a
You're
pleasure.
welcome. Thank
Okay.
you all. Goodbye.
Bye.